So Rukundo has been practicing in the field of TEFL and TESOL and teacher professional development since 2003. He directed language teaching programs for several before shifting interest to focus on teacher professional development in 2009. Currently, he oversees a full-time TOEFL and teacher professional development program for over 500 teachers annually. Rukundo also volunteers to provide mentorship and coaching to a group of over 300 English teachers organized in teacher communities of practice at COP, where he organizes and facilitates monthly professional leadership training sessions. He believes teachers can be excellent resources and inspiration for other teachers, especially if they are organized in the context of a COP. So this morning he will be taking us through key aspects of professional development in leadership, and particularly he will be talking about emotional intelligence. So welcome, Mr. Rukundo. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. A good morning to you all. I believe you are in the East Africa time zone at this moment. If there is anybody outside that, good afternoon or good night. So thank you, Jen, for the introduction, and it's an honor. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be presenting to you all, to be talking to you this morning. And this will be my second conversation with professionals, English language professionals in Kenya. My first was in Kisumu, and now this is my second. I feel very honored. I feel very humbled, like I've mentioned that more than a few times to Jen. So Jen reached out to me a couple of weeks ago and requested that I organize and facilitate a session on emotional intelligence in leadership. I almost hesitated to say yes, but then I thought teachers don't say no, because we try, we do our best, we consult, we research, we read, we ask questions, and that's exactly what I did. And I thought at some point that Jane was going to be tired of me because I wanted to really get to the bottom of what it is that we can do together, that we can attempt together, that of all things at the end of this session, each one of us can feel inspired to take forward what it is that they are doing and take some risks and get some courage, because we are supporting many teachers, but at the same time we are volunteering. This is not our day job. We have families, we have things going on in our lives, that if we sacrifice a few hours over the weekend and maybe many hours to prepare for those few hours in one training session, it's a huge commitment. It's a high level purpose undertaking. So I thank you all for everything that you're doing, and I feel very honored to be the one talking to you today. So this session is going to last about an hour and 15 minutes, and I'm timing to make sure that we end at exactly 11:30 Nairobi time. So there are two colleagues of mine on this session. That is Christine and Laura, and they know that we've been doing some leadership training session, very interactive, very focused on professional development leadership. And I tend to separate leadership in the professional development context, continuing professional development context, from the local government politics, leadership, because the definition will change when you shift the focus. And how I like to define leadership in the context of professional development, the definition should not come from me. The definition should come from the people who are practicing teaching, who are practicing teacher support, teacher professional development activities, because they know what they are doing. They know how that's going well, what's going well, and what needs to be worked on more to be improved. So that will be like how I approach this, leadership in the professional development, emotional intelligence as a very broad concept, and then combining those two and see what we can arrive at the end. So we've agreed with Jen that she will monitor the chat to make sure that questions and comments that are posted there are captured. But there is also going to be moments where I'll be asking a few questions and then I'll get some responses from the participants. And when I do that, I will kind of request you to 1 minute, probably maximum a minute and a half, but a minute or less, so that we can be able to use this virtual moment to make this presentation as interactive as possible. Okay. So as far as qualifications are concerned, because I know we can't do these things, especially teacher professional, you can't teach teachers unless you're a teacher. So I have a master's degree in applied linguistics. My bachelor's degree is in English language studies and organizational behavior, organizational management. I am a certified professional development provider through training. And then I have, and the reason I got a lot of interest in emotional intelligence, inspired by Jen, is because I have an advanced diploma in professional counseling and guidance. So sometimes I use those skills when I'm working with the teachers. So that's my academic background, and Jen, you spoke about the experience. So if we get started here, so please write in the chat or unmute and make a few comments, maybe 30 seconds, 1 minute. In your own experience and in your own words, what do you understand by the concept leadership?
Come up again.
In your own experience, you've been a teacher, you do teacher training, you do leadership, and in your own words, what do you understand by the term leadership?
Yes.
May I able to say?
Davis here. I think leadership is being a role model.
Could you say that again, please?
Role modeling, being a role model.
Being a role model, yeah, amazing. Being a role model.
We have someone at the top who is saying, Judith is saying, influencing people towards a certain direction.
Yes.
Rogers is saying, taking responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Adija is saying, guiding and influencing others to achieve a common goal.
Yeah, great. All these are great examples. Yeah. Guiding others, showing the way, inspiring a team to achieve objectives. Yeah, those are like the big keywords in leadership. One of the big ones is what are some of the things can you do to inspire teachers to take on more challenging activities? Collaborating with your team, making decisions after consulting your team, that's really key. Because if you make decisions for them, trust me, they will challenge you even when you are right. Yeah. So in a normal workshop session, if we had time, we would take these comments from you and construct our own definition so that we localize that in our practice. Yeah, ability to inspire others towards a common goal. So yeah, that's really, really very, very on target. And you know, we are defining leadership within the context, within the environment that we engage in practice. Whether you're doing research like you are a chapter leader, you're a classroom teacher, you were, program coordinator, or you are just, a meeting facilitator like this. Okay, good. So let's shift to, can you name at least one quality of good leaders, again from your experience? What is the one characteristic? What is the one quality of what you consider to be good leadership that you see in leaders that you work with? Let's use another 2 minutes. Tolerance, accommodative. Just saying this loud so that if there is anybody that is not able to see the chat, they can hear them. Listens, empathy, open-minded, visionary, yes, visionary, observe, yeah, understanding, goal-oriented, communication, and ability to make decisions, yes, focused, yeah, collaborative, delegate, motivate, solve problems, yes, they're always there. Listening is coming back, a good listener. I normally say deliberate listener. You have to actively, to deliberately listen to be able to be seen as a good leader. So you may continue typing because Jenny will capture that and put together. So in your experience again, what are some of these? What is the one good characteristic or quality of leadership that you've attempted to practice in your experience? Any characteristic or leadership quality that you are aware you've practiced in your role as a leader, one way or the other? Don't be shy because you've been doing this. Being reliable, yeah. So ability to delegate, to focus on tasks, to consult. Good leaders consult. They stay focused on real issues. They accommodate situations that people who do not possess those qualities may not be able to do. Yes, time management, time conscious. You don't want to look like you're wasting anybody's time. You respect their time. Emotional intelligence, that's the big thing. Sensitivity, yeah. And I'm sure, 100% sure that every individual in this meeting is doing something or has done something that they are either aware of or they are not aware of. Yeah. Respectful, a sense of humor. Yeah. 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 Okay. So I think we can leave it at that, but keep thinking about these questions because those are some of the questions you need to ask yourself. And you can also challenge people that you work with who are developing, who are aspiring to become leaders, because this level of awareness is one of the things that we are going to look at that are big with emotional intelligence. So I'm going to make an attempt here. I want to show you a video. I'm not sure we are going to watch all of it, but it's on TEDx, and I viewed it more than a few times, and I thought if we listen to this video, it could watch and listen, it could summarize more than a few things that we are going to cover in the next slides, which would effectively save us a lot of time, but at the same time grounding ourselves in the topic of today. So let me see if I can get it up and running. It's 16 minutes. We can watch half of it. We can watch the entire video, but you will definitely have a link that that you can watch later on, and I'm really praying, I'm on my knees and hoping that you can be able to hear it. Are you guys able to see it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
There's a magical moment that I live for when I'm teaching. A moment when I have the absolute privilege of seeing someone transform right before my eyes.
So everybody getting that?
The sound is good, only that we can see this.
Cool. So let's go. I think it's a good video. You might like it. You know, anything that comes to your mind in the context of this video, write it down. And I'm hoping that can be a logical extension from the conversation we just had, trying to construct our definition of leadership.
It's when someone realizes for the very first time the potential they have to create change, where they find their own agency to make a difference for themselves and for others, and when they realize they have far more power than they ever realized. I'm not a typical UC Berkeley faculty member. I don't have a PhD. I wear bright socks and blast eclectic playlists as I pull into the faculty parking lot. And I've dedicated my life to helping others find their own voice and step into their leadership potential. And it's that potential that I recognize in everyone that helps me see the way we think and talk about leadership is broken. We love to tell stories that are heroic, mythical, almost superhuman. But when we put leaders like these up on a pedestal, it causes so many of us to look around and say, well, that's just not who I am. I'm not that brave, not that charismatic, not an extrovert. You know, maybe that means that leadership just isn't for me. I'm just not meant to be a leader. I've heard that reaction way too often. And it makes sense because the way we talk about leadership, the way we teach leadership at schools and in companies is often divisive, discouraging, and disempowering to nearly all of us. But I have a fundamental belief that drives everything I do as a social entrepreneur, an educator, and as a dad. Leaders might be scarce, but leadership is abundant. We may have only one CEO, only one executive director, only one assistant regional manager. We may have only a certain limited number of people in traditional positions of leadership. But each and every one of us can practice acts of leadership. Leadership is not a title. Leadership is an act. To put this abstract idea into practice, I want to introduce you to a concept I call micro-leadership. Micro-leadership breaks leadership down into its smallest and most meaningful unit, which is a single leadership moment. We have these leadership moments that appear before us dozens of times per day. Small little moments to step up and serve others. Maybe it's noticing a colleague who hasn't spoken up during a meeting and saying, hey, no pressure here, but we'd love to hear your perspective if you're willing to share. Or maybe it's being willing to say no when everyone else is saying yes. Or maybe it's being the one person to stay late to have a new colleague clean up after their very first event. These are all tiny little moments. And if you pay attention, you'll notice them pop up for you many, many times for you every single day. The bravest act is to stand up and believe that you can be a leader. When you think about becoming a leader for the first time, it can feel like a big, scary leap. Like the time my friends and I decided to go skydiving, but made the exceedingly poor choice to use a coupon to try and save some money in my early days as a social entrepreneur. As we boarded the plane, we saw that even the pilot was wearing a parachute, which was not exactly confidence-inducing. Fortunately, I lived to tell the tale. And once I was back safely on the ground, only then did I let my mom know I had made it. But your entrance to leadership doesn't have to feel like a huge freefall. As you make your own leadership leap, let micro-leadership be your parachute. And let that give you confidence to leap from greater and greater heights as you go. And unlike me, you won't be trusting your life to a guy who I later found out didn't even work there. He was just a local enthusiast who filled in on tandem jumps when the actual pros were out sick. You can start with a much smaller leap and build your confidence from there using the concept of micro-leadership. Leadership can feel intimidating, but micro-leadership is inclusive. It's for all of us, and it all starts with small steps that anyone can do. Let's take a look at an example of micro-leadership in action. Sedona Prince was 21 years old, a college sophomore, and a member of the University of Oregon basketball team. Both the men's and women's NCAA championship tournaments were taking place simultaneously, but due to COVID, each was being held completely within a single city. As Prince entered the women's weight room, to be shared by every single athlete, she noticed a huge discrepancy. She noticed that while the weight room for the men's teams was huge and fully equipped, the women's weight room was basically just some yoga mats and this one really sad-looking rack of dumbbells. To be sure, Prince was not the first person to notice this unequal discrepancy. Among coaches, players, and staff, across 64 teams, there must have been at least 2,000 people who saw exactly what Prince saw. But they all let the leadership opportunity pass them by. Perhaps they thought they had to wait for permission from someone else to step up and take action. Perhaps they thought only coaches or athletic directors, by virtue of their titles, could affect change. Or perhaps they thought that taking action here had to be grandiose and to fix all of gender inequality in one swoop. Who knows? But we do know that countless people saw the same thing, had the same leadership moment appear before them, but let it pass by. So what did Prince do? She didn't have much of a platform at all. Not many followers on social media. But she did have a phone and a perspective and a voice. And she made a choice right there to step up and seize the leadership moment. She pulled out her phone and filmed a 38-second TikTok video that showed firsthand the differences between the two weight rooms, alongside some brief and entertaining commentary. She posted her video on TikTok, reposted it to Twitter, and then went to bed. When she woke up the next morning, she'd received over 100,000 retweets and invites to appear on national television shows, including ABC's Good Morning America. Her one short video had catalyzed a national conversation. More importantly, her video got the attention of the college athletics governing body, the NCAA, and the wider sports world. Sports stars, both men and women, including NBA star Steph Curry, weighed in on the conversation that Prince had started. And as a result of all this attention, which all started with one tiny act of leadership, the NCAA agreed to make the weight rooms equal. There are 3 steps for micro-leadership, and just like Prince did, each of us can follow them to embrace our own leadership potential, no matter our situation, our goals, or our desired impact. Let's go through each of the 3 steps to show how you can start practicing micro-leadership right now. Step 1, give yourself permission. The only permission we need to begin practicing micro-leadership is our own. And it can happen anytime and any place. When I lived in Stockholm, our next door neighbor was Virginia, a wonderful 92-year-old with a passion for weak tea and strong desserts. I didn't wait to ask her for permission. And before I knew it, I was serving as her one-man IT agency, fixing her printer, resetting her router, and helping her post status updates on Facebook. And without me asking, she took it upon herself to help me learn Swedish, regularly going to the library to pick up books just for me, and then surprising me by sliding them under my door. I'm not too proud to admit that they definitely weren't classic Swedish literature. They were definitely all from the kids section. Neither of us waited to ask for help. We gave ourselves permission. So alongside learning a lot about Swedish Donald Duck, I also saw firsthand what's possible when we encourage ourselves to take action. Singer-songwriter Joan Baez has a quote that I love. She says, "Action is the antidote to despair." When we look at the world around us, we all have so many reasons to feel despair, whether that's the climate crisis or just a messed up corporate culture at work. We can easily feel frustrated, intimidated, and overwhelmed. For many of us, these very real feelings lead us to never doing anything. But what if instead we saw these feelings as an invitation to step up and take action? Action need not be grandiose, and it need not be complicated. But before we can take action, there's a single key we need to get started. Just like Virginia did every time she was at the library, we have to first give ourselves permission to act. Step 2, go beyond yourself. Micro-leadership is rooted in taking small actions that serve others. We often over-glorify leadership as being about one powerful person in one room telling others what to do. But in reality, so much of what leadership takes is a bottom-up approach, about rolling up our sleeves and getting involved. No one will ever tell you not to arrive early to help a colleague set up, or not to stay late to help a colleague clean up. We can give ourselves permission to take on these small acts of leadership, rooted in helping others at any time. This beyond yourself mentality is embodied by Sam McCracken, a member of the Sioux and Assiniboine tribes of northeastern Montana and a general manager at Nike. 3 years into his role, he developed an idea that was informed by all of his experiences to that point, both his professional experiences and his community ones. He developed the idea for an Indigenous-inspired line within Nike, one which would leverage the brand and its resources to encourage increased athletic participation among Indigenous communities. How did McCracken know that this was an idea worth pursuing? In his own words, "I heard there was a need in my community, and I listened." The Nike N7 line to date has awarded more than $8 million in grants to tribal communities, supporting more than 500,000 youth. Both McCracken and Prince's actions were rooted in helping others. In Prince's case, she was serving her fellow women athletes, McCracken's in serving his communities. And in both cases, their leadership began not with formal permission, but with a decision they each made to step up and serve those around them. Step 3, take action again and again. We often think that there'll be a magical moment when we're finally given the title of leader, or someone tells us that it's our time to start leading. If you're waiting for that to happen, you will probably be waiting a really long time, maybe forever. Microleadership isn't about any one single decision. It's about the collective power of lots and lots of small actions over time. Here, I think of 18-year-old Paige Hunter, who has experienced her own mental health challenges and started writing notes of hope and attaching them to Wearmouth Bridge in Sunderland, England. Her notes, providing perspective, as well as information and resources, are credited with saving the lives of several people. In writing these notes, she could never know which single note would have an impact, but she kept showing up week after week with more notes. Each note, in and of itself, is a small gesture, but collectively, over time, these notes add up to big impact. Looking ahead, you might see becoming a leader as a huge mountain to climb, an insurmountable one at that. Maybe you feel uncomfortable calling yourself a leader, or you come from a culture which tells you to wait your turn, where you think that leadership can only come from a position of formal authority, a notion that my toddler delights in challenging pretty much every single day. Regardless, microleadership is a way of breaking your leadership journey down into small, achievable steps. Take action again and again and again. And after doing this for weeks, for months, for a year, you'll look back and realize all of the leadership that you've practiced, perhaps without even realizing it. Each tiny act, in and of itself, might feel insignificant in the moment, but collectively, they really add up. Raise your hand if you can already picture a friend or a coworker who would benefit from your act of microleadership. Great. Start by seizing at least one leadership moment today before you go to bed. Here are some practical ways to get you started. Finally share that idea that you've been sitting on with someone else, even if it's not yet perfect. Take the time to give really thoughtful feedback to a coworker, or kindly but firmly tell a friend who's about to go skydiving that they should definitely not use a coupon. I bet you have lots and lots of other ideas here too. Microleadership shows that we do not have to be the CEO to perform acts of leadership. It's a framework for rethinking how simple and achievable it actually is to take on small leadership acts consciously and consistently. And in doing so, we develop not just leadership skills, but also a brand new identity. We become leaders right before our own eyes. Microleadership is an invitation to you to start changing the way you think about leadership. From believing it's something that other people who are braver, more outgoing, or more charismatic than you do, and instead to start seeing it as something you do. To lead, don't wait for permission. Step up, serve others, and do it again and again. That's microleadership, and that's how tiny leadership moments will unlock your leadership potential. Thank you.
All right. Are you still there?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm so sorry I had to take you through this. I hope this was worth watching. I have watched this video more than a couple times, and it's from TEDx, and it's an app that you can have on your phone. But so any quick takeaways from the video already? I can see practice micro leadership, step 1, step 2, step 3. Thanks, Khadija. Any other comments or takeaways from this video? I mean, these are moments where you can take a resource that is available and use it to your own advantage. And I felt like this would be one of those moments where this video could inspire a few of you or maybe everybody. So any comment? Leadership is not a title. Small acts, yes, because when we say continuing professional development, what do you mean? You cannot, do a big stuff in such a short time, but rather small things over the course of time. Says the opportunity. I mean, when Jen reached out to me, I almost kind of said no, but I said, no. Let me use these opportunities, maybe spend 1 or 2 sleepless nights and see if I can figure something to share with my colleagues from Kenya and from other places. Yeah, breaking the journey into smaller achievable steps. Yes. Start by sharing an idea with your friend, with your fellow teachers, with your colleagues. So you also had words like catalysts, invitation to step up. And I think everybody on this call will probably relate to this idea of being invited to step up, including me. I believe including Jen and Rogers, I guess. So this is really, I thought this would be something that you could benefit from. Anything else from this video? You'll have access to the video. Jen will have this the slides, so that, and there is a recording, of course. Okay. So let's go to emotional intelligence. So we've covered some ground, bravery on the leadership as a concept, as a term. So now let's shift to emotional intelligence. So I would like you to go back to, this is amazing. You do not have to be the CEO to perform acts of leadership. Thank you, Khadija. So let's use the same approach we used for leadership. So what comes to your mind when you hear emotional intelligence? Again, from your experience, social life, workplace life, experience. So what comes to your mind when you hear that? Are you there? Being able to be sensitive to others. Yes, sensitivity. So this is coming back. We saw sensitivity from leadership, and now it's coming back, emotional intelligence. It's a nice connection. Being aware, awareness of others' feelings. How do others feel? Understand personality and behavior to be able to influence interactions. Empathy, that's big. Manage your own emotions. That's of course, our ability to manage our own emotions will put us in a place where we can be able to read and help other people that are communicating through emotions. Thanks, Khadija. Yeah, it's really important that we unpack these terminologies from our understanding, relating to other people's feelings and ideas. And I think this is also connected to being respectful of others' ideas and knowing how to present yourself when feelings are moving closer to cross the line that divides logic from emotion, which is very thin. Social skills, social awareness. Thanks, Kristen. So you guys are amazing. It's like you're reading my slides. Anything else? Self-control. Yeah. Self-control, self-management. Motivation. Okay, so let's how about social skills? Exactly. Yeah. Because we live in a social cultural environment, so your ability to communicate, so social skills, soft skills. Jenny will say something about soft skills in a moment, supporting others. Yeah. So again, keep typing those. So let's shift gears a bit. And so we know something about emotional intelligence already. We do know something about emotional intelligence, even if we probably are not aware, but we do know, especially when we are prompted to reflect on it, to think about it. So why is it important to know? Because it doesn't matter whether you're a great leader, you will have this very high power position. If your emotional intelligence is on the lower end, we have problems. We are going to look at those in a moment. So what are the key elements? What are the key elements of EI, emotional intelligence? So we are going to look at those. But you've already mentioned some of those: social skills, social awareness, motivation, etc. So we're going to look at those in more detail. And then, are we able to identify our emotions? Are we able to identify our emotions? So that's one of the big questions. So very quickly, and probably a yes or no. How many people think that as an individuals we can be able to identify our own emotions? Yes, no. Can we be able to identify our own emotions? Yes. Yes. It's possible. It is possible, but it may also be challenging. So if you think of anything else, please put it in the chat, and then we can come back to that at the end. So let's shift to emotional intelligence and leadership. And there are big things there. There are big things there. Can we identify a lack of emotional intelligence in leaders as followers? So the teachers that you are working with, do you think they are able to notice when you as a leader is lacking emotional intelligence abilities, or you have a high level of emotional intelligence, in which case that becomes useful to them? So we need to consider the relationships you have with your colleagues, your co-workers, your friends, because if you don't, then we may have issues with our ability to communicate effectively, because as I normally say, there is a thin line between logic and emotion, and it's gray. So it is easy to cross from emotion to it's easy to cross from logic to emotion when you're overwhelmed, you've had a long day, you've had weather is bad, it's too hot, it's too cold, maybe you missed your bus, maybe you are held up in a traffic jam. So, and then how do you manage that in relation to your colleagues? You might be sitting somewhere waiting. We have conflict resolution, we'll talk about that. And one of the big things about conflict resolution is if you delay to address conflicts that need to be addressed, then you have much bigger issues that we'll be looking at in the conclusion. So these are some of the highlights. Empathy, that was mentioned. It came up a couple of times when we were constructing the definition of leadership and what we understand by emotional intelligence. Soft skills. So I asked Jen to think about some of the soft skills that can be localized in the context of teacher professional development in Kenya. And I would like to, and then specifically chapters, I would like to ask Jen to maybe use 2 minutes and share something that she came up with, which I think is amazing. Over to you, Jen.
Thank you so much, Rukundo. Thank you everyone for your active participation. I appreciate the comments and I'm learning quite a lot. So when it comes to soft skills, we have a couple of soft skills, but I would like to just talk about 4. And one of them is team player attitude. Whether you are an individual contributor or a people manager, you have to work with other people, that is in meetings and brainstorm in various cross-functional projects within your chapter. So a positive can-do attitude when it comes to working with others is essential to team harmony, which means you need to be able to run effective and inclusive meetings, be open to new ideas and work respectfully with others. So I know as a chapter and leaders, you're going to be coming together as a meeting, having meetings to deliberate about your chapter and the plans that you're going to have. So having that team player attitude is important. Then secondly, we have growth mindset. It is inevitable that you're not going to lack to have disappointment sometimes, encounter roadblocks and other situations that are might frustrate you. However, someone with a growth mindset might look at a failure as an opportunity to identify their strength and weakness. So whenever you find the challenges that come along your way, because I know for sure you will definitely have this, it's time to weigh yourself and see what am I strong in and where do I need to work on, instead of having the one where you feel that I cannot do this because I'm unable to. You're having that kind of attitude of self-pity, but you can use those opportunities to learn about yourself and improve yourself and improve the group in general. Then another soft skill is active listening. So active listeners pay close attention to meeting presenters, offer up clarifying questions or responses, and refer back to notes in future discussion. They don't need things repeated to them because they had them the first time. So making active listeners not only respectful to colleagues, but more effective workers too. So that is also a skill that as a leader, we all ought to have, to be active listeners. And also listening to something that is being said and it's not being said. You know, you can be able to decipher what is being said even though it's not being said. So that is quite important. Then we have work ethic. And I know most of us are in a we are all volunteers in all this. It doesn't come with a pay and a monthly pay or a weekly pay or an hourly pay. But one thing I know that one soft skill that we need to have is a work ethic. And we cannot succeed in a role without being willing to put in the time, the effort, and elbow grease to hit your goals as leaders. There is need to put an extra leg work to succeed without being asked. But eventually, I can promise you eventually, all your hard work will be paid. So in general, what weaves all these soft skills together is a positive attitude. It might sound cheesy, but believing that there's positive outcome in any and in all challenging situations will help you navigate the day-to-day of your job while making other people really want to work with you. So what can I improve all of us to do? We keep auditing and improving our soft skill set. Thank you, Rukundo.
Thank you so much. So if we workshop this topic further, we could come up with more soft skills. But I like to ground any soft skills discussion within the context that teachers are working to teach, and the teachers are working to volunteer, to put themselves out there to support others. But you also have other things like computer skills, communication skills, and these are things that you can actually research and teach yourself. I believe in self-study. I believe in research. I believe in connecting what I'm hearing, what I'm learning, what I'm reading to the real lives that we live in, in the context of professional development, but that can also extend to daily life and coming back to social awareness. So let's shift to, and now I'm going to start moving a bit faster here. Can we manage our emotions? You remember we asked this question, but I think the key is that your ability to identify what triggers, what causes that. So do you practice emotion regulation techniques? So when you are caught up in that thing that makes you cross the line and to the continuum of emotion, what do you do? What do you do? How do you become aware of that, and how do you immediately regulate that? Staying active. I like to exercise. I like to take walks. Call your colleague if you're stuck in a situation. Don't sleep on it. If something that is bothering you, health. I mean, if it wasn't for cross-border interaction and support and people reaching out, I wouldn't be standing in front of you here giving this presentation. And then the big question is, why do we sometimes struggle? Why do we sometimes struggle to control our emotions, even in seemingly minor situations? And I think 2 or 3 people mentioned self-control. So this relates to our ability to self-manage, to self-control when we get caught up in emotions that may affect our standing as leaders. So, so these are some of the things that I tried to connect, but of course there are more examples that you can think about. And again, you are a cohort of amazing teachers, lots of experience, exposure. I have no doubt that you can come up with many examples. So what are other examples? So you could think of other examples, and maybe we can highlight those when we start the Q&A and discussion exchange. So next here, and very quickly, and I think this is like the big picture of what we've been talking about regarding emotional intelligence vis-a-vis leadership. So there are core competencies, but you can compare this with developing EI skills. Self-awareness, being aware of your own feelings puts you in charge, puts you in control, not your emotion. Self-management, self-control, your ability to manage your own emotions. Stressful situations, complex situations, you're having a bad day, but you still maintain that look on your face and stay positive despite everything that is going on that would otherwise push you down, because you are a leader. Social awareness, we talked about that, recognizing others' emotions and dynamics in play with your organization, with your chapter, with your colleagues, and so on and so forth. And then relationship management, you remember we said consider your relationships. So if you look at this table or chart. Then you have self-awareness here. Then you have social awareness of others. And then you have self-management, in relation to your actions. And then you have relationship management in relation to your actions towards others. That's really important. And this is something that, if I may, I researched and found this, and it's from Harvard School. So Harvard Business School online, yes. So these are the key pieces here that on the one extent the developing emotional intelligence skills, ideas, but there are 4 core competences of emotional intelligence that we need to keep in mind as we aspire and we step forward to become leaders. So next, it's a scenario that I would like to just read through very quickly, and then we take like 5 minutes to type in the chat. A group of teachers have been actively participating in a professional development workshop sessions you are conducting. Suddenly they stop coming. One of the teachers tells you they don't see any financial benefit to supplement their finances. How would you help the teachers lower the expectation for financial gain and focus on benefits of professional development? So we cannot exhaust this, but this is a scenario that Jen and I discussed, and we believe it's real. In Kenya, in Rwanda, in Tanzania, everywhere, there are teachers that show up, and what they are thinking is, maybe I'll get some cash, I'll get this or that. And that puts them in a place where the focus is on gaining some financial benefit rather than focusing on skills that they can learn. Sensitize them on gains other than the monetary. Yes, absolutely. So that process needed to begin before you engage these teachers, so that the expectations are on what am I learning from this, rather than as a skill, as a soft skill, as a resource, as a network with other teachers, rather than finances. And you noticed from the video, and the reason I'm not going to spend much time on this is because the video you watched really addressed that. John says, I can openly tell them that knowledge is better than money. Yeah, they may agree, they may not agree, but have to find a way to make sure that they can come back. Right? So we kind of went through this and saw examples of some of the things that people stepped up and did that eventually benefited them, but that was not the goal. So this is something, Jen, this is something you can brainstorm in your smaller teams so that you can empower leaders on this call on how to respond to situations, real life situations in their chapters, using scenarios like this to be able to empower and inspire and encourage them to better coach and support teachers. Instead of drive, taking initiative. So moving to the end, towards the end, so that's the conclusion. According to organizational theory research, and this is something that I got from a reliable source, 95% of people think they are self-aware, but only 10 to 15% actually are. So, including myself, we have some trainings on unconscious or conscious bias, unconscious or conscious judgment. So some things we know that we have, other things we don't know that we are able to do, or we think we do when we are actually not. So this is one of them. To bring out the best in others, you first need to bring out the best in yourself, which is where self-awareness comes into play. Leaders who lack self-management tend to react and have the harder time keeping their impulses in check. Striving to understand colleagues' feelings and perspectives, we covered that, enables leaders to communicate and collaborate more effectively with their peers. And I could also say fellow leaders. And then research shows that every unaddressed conflict can waste several hours of time in gossip and other unproductive activities, putting a drain on resources and morale. So, and this conclusion ties into both how we defined leadership from our context and how we constructed a definition for emotional intelligence, and some of the highlights around issues that teacher leaders can face if they are not mindful of some of these ideas that can potentially catapult you into powerful professional development leaders. So next, I spoke with Jen and we thought we would ask you people these two questions. What is the one thing that you learned from the session that you feel you can apply in your role as a professional development leader? And what is the one thing that you'd like to know more, learn more in regards to emotional intelligence in leadership? So I do not know, Jen, how do you like to document the takeaways, but I think it's very important that we document takeaways from sessions like this. On the one hand, it's feedback to the facilitator. And like I said, you can never make this 100% perfect, these kinds of presentation, because on the other hand is continual learning and reflection and engagement on the part of the participants and organizers. So it's over to you, Jen, to decide how you want to document, the responses to this question. And that's my last slide. So we have about 14 minutes left. So we can use those 14 minutes for Q&A, suggestions, comments, etc. So that's what I prepared for this particular session. And if there are any big topics or items that we can do a follow-up session, I'm happy to step up again and put something together, working with Jen and the other colleagues in Kenya. So thank you very much for your attention. And again, I'm honored and very grateful that I was able to put this together and present it to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rukundo, for that. We really appreciate your time and the effort that you have put in to have this presentation, and we have learned quite a lot, which I believe we have. For the takeaway, I would kindly request people to write down on the chat. However, I will share a Google document where we can document our takeaway for every session. This one will help you come up with an action plan by the end of the year. So we can still share on the chat, but I'll also share a Google document where we can document what we are learning for every session. So This session is for question and answers, and also answer the questions that are on the screen too. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Chrissy says, I learned more about micro leadership with its 3 steps. Khadija says, my takeaway in relation to Dark's video, the concept of giving oneself permission to act and taking consistent small action reflects self-regulation, which is an element of emotional intelligence. True. And Lauren says, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you,
That's a good-
Khadija. Thank you, Laura.
Is there any other questions?
Any other questions, takeaways?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Rukundo.
Thank you.
I believe this was a very good and informative session. Your involvement of the participants was quite good. At no point did we feel bored in the process. It was a good session. And I believe that it's a step in the right direction towards leadership training. I've learned that emotional intelligence is very important as far as leadership is concerned, so that you don't break down, so that you don't feel discouraged in the process. It's important that we have the skills to be strong emotionally as leaders.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. And keeping in mind that both leadership and emotional intelligence are broader, much broader concepts. And combining those two and arriving at an outcome that makes participants feel this was informative, useful, relatable, is probably the dream. That would be the dream of every presenter. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
We have Khadija who is having a question. Maybe she can unmute and ask.
Khadija, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much for the wonderful session. My prayers were answered. My phone did not go off. So in
Amen.
relation to the scenario that you shared, yeah, it's very true. Most teachers need to see the financial gain. So my question is, how are we going to encourage intrinsic motivation where teachers are driven by internal satisfaction and the desire to make a difference rather than external rewards?
Yeah, that's a really good and it's a really good question. It's a complex question, and I think it can be localized in the context where we are all working as the professional development volunteer leaders. In Rwanda, for example, we had a big issue where in 2014, we established the communities of practice approach to teacher professional development with 3 COPs. And within 2 months, 2 had dropped out, which means we lost about 50 teachers because each COP had approximately 25 teachers. So what we did, we didn't stop. We continued working with the 25 teachers only. And these teachers kept coming. You remember from the video, do it and again and again. So we did it and again with those teachers that came back. So when these teachers started to grow and become accomplished classroom teachers, professional development experts, that inspired the teachers that had dropped out and the communities of practice groups that had stopped coming. So I think role modeling things and being consistent with what you are offering, with what you are messaging, will eventually bring people back. It's okay for people to leave than to pretend to stay. So that's one example that is broad for the Association of Teachers of English in Rwanda. But I am sure there are other smaller, there are other practical examples from Kenya, for example. What are some of the things you've done? Because one of the TAs that is very, very active in this region is LPAC. LPAC is like #1, perhaps, or even #2 in the region. So you guys are doing great. So that's what I can say, but keep doing it again and again. Work with those that show up. Do not give up, because one teacher, 2 teachers is too many. If you have a cohort of 15, and by the end of the month you have 4, do not stop. Do not give up. You know, shift gears, keep working, and people will and when they come back, in our experience, they never go back again. So it's good that they go, and if you can do something and they come back, that means they develop the soft skill, probably growth mindset, team player attitude, work ethic. Yeah, does that help, Khadija?
Yes, it does
Yeah.
to some extent.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
complex. It's complex, and you have to live through it slowly, and don't do it alone. Message together with other colleagues. Eventually, you will have some positive impact on those teachers that are focusing on monetary gains.
Sure.
Yeah. We have about 5 more minutes. Any other comments or questions?
Maybe mine is not a question, but just to add on what you've said. Hello?
Yeah, yes.
Just to add on what you have said, sometimes the issue of people following monetary gains rather than looking at the broader perspective, I sometimes share my own experience. I give them, you can also share your experience of the journey you've had to where you have reached. You know, sometimes when people join an association because maybe they have seen an opportunity has come, because you have got an opportunity to maybe to visit another country, or you've got an opportunity to go and further your education through the activities that are done, they think that is your beginning. They don't know that you started at a certain point and you have been growing in this thing up to the point where now you are beginning now to get networks and able to get opportunities to go out. It doesn't start by networking. It starts by volunteering. It starts by accepting to do things without any material gain. Sometimes you use your own resources at a certain point so that things can go. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when people come in and then see you now going maybe out and maybe doing things out there, and they think that is where you are starting from. They need to know your starting point so that as they come in, they know there is a starting point for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. I mean, sharing your own experience, the journey you've gone through, and where you are at can inspire them. Of course. Thank you for sharing. I believe this was Rogers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Any other comments, questions?
Yes, we have a few comments now. Let me get there. So we have Christine says the 4 soft skills. She learned about the first 4 soft skills, which is team player, growth mindset, active listening, and work ethics. Then Isaac says continuous learning is key. That conclusion has nailed it home. Then you have Davis, the soft skills are a game changer. I am renewed, informed, and better. Thank you, Senior Rukundo, for the wonderful presentation. Then Judith says, a great session. Thanks, Rukundo. I have learned that 95% of us are self-aware. Yet only 10% are aware. Yes, 10 to 15% are aware. Yes. So we also have Lorient who says, not giving up and shifting gear can help TAs to sustain. I like that. And especially, I would like to weigh in on that as leaders. Everyone here has a journey, and there's a place where we all started. And one thing is for sure, we are not where we started. We are all growing, and we're not giving up. And that is why we are still here. So not giving up and shifting gears can help the TAs sustain. Then Khadija says, I really liked the video, a very good one. I will watch it again and again. And some emojis there. Then we have Chrissy. I think we should show teachers how improving their skills and knowledge can lead them to greater job satisfaction and career advancement. And Arthur says the session has been so informative.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think if we refer to Chris's comment, professional development, voluntary professional development, or participating in any types of professional development, whether it's skills development, including leadership, it can potentially help you with the job that you are paid to do. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so those are some of the things that you can continue to brainstorm, to workshop for your teachers, so that you are able to motivate them to stay on the one hand, but to coach them and inspire them to come back when they leave, because they will. Yeah. So love for our societies and seeing the bigger picture should propel us to learn more. Yeah. So I think it's about more than a few seconds to get to the top of the hour. So maybe Jen, you would like to do some closing remarks?
Yes. So just one last comment. I think it's capturing what we are saying here. Antonin says, love for our societies and seeing the bigger picture would propel us to learn more. Thank you, Antonin. So I would like to, before I close, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the LPAC officials. We have Constance and Tiberius. They were not with us at the time, but maybe they can say something. Constance and Tiberius.
Hello.
Hi,
Tiberius. Nice to hear your voice. It's been a
How are you,
while.
my friend Rukundo Kanyankole?
How are you, sir?
Thank you so much for